Jake stared at the distress beacon signal on his navigation screen. It blinked red in the darkness of space, coming from somewhere near the belt. He frowned and checked the coordinates again. There should not be any ships out here. This route was empty, just rocks and ice floating in the void. "Captain, are you seeing this?" Lisa called from the engine room. Her voice crackled through the ship's old communication system. "Yeah, I see it," Jake said. He ran his hand through his hair and looked at the cargo manifest on his other screen. Medical supplies for the mining colony on Titan. Time-sensitive, lives depending on it. He should ignore the beacon and keep flying. But something made him hesitate. Ben Torres, the navigator, stepped into the small bridge. "What are we doing about that signal?" "Company policy says we report it and keep moving," Jake said slowly. "Let the Colonial Defense Force handle it." "That will take them 3 days to get here," Lisa said, appearing in the doorway. She wiped grease from her hands with a rag. "If someone is in trouble out here, 3 days might be too long." Jake knew she was right. He also knew what stopping would cost him. His contract with the shipping company was clear. No unauthorized detours, no delays. His last performance review had been rough. One more mistake and he would lose this job. Jobs were hard to find in the outer colonies. "Run a scan," he said finally. "Let's see what we are dealing with." Ben moved to his station and started the scanning sequence. The ship's sensors reached out into the dark, searching for the source of the distress call. After a moment, Ben's eyes widened. "Captain, you need to see this." Jake leaned over Ben's shoulder and looked at the scan results. The ship that was sending the distress signal was unlike anything in their database. The design was smooth and curved, made of some kind of silver metal that their sensors could barely read. It was small, maybe the size of a personal yacht, but the technology was far beyond anything humans had built. "Is that alien?" Lisa asked, her voice quiet. "Has to be," Jake said. His heart started beating faster. Humanity had been in space for 70 years. They had colonies on Mars, Europa, Titan, and a dozen other moons and asteroids. But they had never found another intelligent species, never found proof that aliens existed. Until now. "We should definitely call the CDF," Ben said. "This is way above our level." Jake's communication panel lit up. An incoming call from company headquarters. He sighed and answered it. Peter's face appeared on the screen. He was a thin man with a permanent frown working from an office back on Earth. "I see you have slowed down. Your delivery schedule shows a delay. Explain." "We picked up a distress beacon," Jake said, "running scans to determine the situation." "Is it one of ours?" "No, unknown vessel." Peter's frown deepened. "Then it is not your problem. Report it to the proper authorities and continue your route. Those medical supplies are needed on Titan. People are counting on you." "The CDF is 3 days away," Jake said. "If someone is dying on that ship, they will not last 3 days." "Not your problem. You are a cargo hauler, not a rescue service. Continue your route. That is an order." Peter ended the call. Jake sat back in his chair and stared at the screen. The beacon kept blinking. The alien ship kept floating in the darkness, damaged and silent. "What are we going to do?" Lisa asked. Jake thought about the people on Titan who needed medicine. He thought about his job, his crew, his responsibility. He thought about the rules and regulations that kept everything running smoothly. Then he thought about someone alone and hurt in the dark, sending out a desperate call for help that no one would answer for 3 days. "Change course," he said. "Take us to that ship." Ben and Lisa exchanged looks. "The company will fire you," Ben said quietly. "Maybe," Jake said. "But I can live with being fired. I cannot live with letting someone die when I could have helped." It took them 40 minutes to reach the alien vessel. As they got closer, they could see the damage. Something had torn through the ship's hull, leaving jagged holes in the silver metal. There were no life signs reading on their sensors, but Jake knew their equipment might not be able to detect alien biology. "Prep the airlock," Jake told Lisa. "Ben, keep the engines ready in case we need to leave fast." "You are going over there?" Lisa asked. "Someone has to." Jake suited up and crossed through the connecting tube they had attached to the alien ship's airlock. The mechanism was different from human designs, but he managed to get it open. The inside of the ship was dark except for a few emergency lights that pulsed with a soft blue glow. The ship was beautiful. Even damaged, even dark, it was clearly built by beings who valued art as much as function. The walls had patterns etched into them, flowing designs that reminded Jake of water and wind. He moved through the narrow corridors, following the emergency lights toward what he hoped was the bridge or main cabin. His helmet light cut through the darkness, showing him rooms filled with equipment he did not understand. Then he found her. She was lying on the floor of what looked like a command center. Her skin was pale blue, smooth and unmarked. Her hair was long and silver, spread around her head like light. She wore robes that seemed to shift colors as his light moved across them. She was not human, but she was clearly a person, and she was hurt. Jake knelt beside her and checked for signs of life. He did not know alien biology, but he could see she was breathing, slowly, weakly, but breathing. There was a wound on her side, sealed with some kind of medical foam that had hardened. "Hello," he said, knowing she probably could not hear him through his helmet. "I am here to help." Her eyes opened. They were large and golden with no white around the iris. She looked at him, and for a moment Jake forgot to breathe. There was intelligence in those eyes and something else. Recognition, maybe, or assessment. Then her eyes closed again, and she went still. Jake lifted her carefully. She was lighter than he expected. He carried her back through the ship, through the airlock, into his own vessel. Lisa had the medical bay ready, their basic first aid station that was designed for human injuries. "Will this even work on her?" Ben asked as they laid the alien woman on the medical table. "I do not know," Jake admitted, "but we have to try." He sent a message to the nearest medical station, the facility on Europa. They had the most advanced medical equipment in the outer colonies. If anyone could help an alien, they could. But Europa was 6 hours away at full speed. Peter called again, his face red with anger. "You changed course. You are now 12 hours behind schedule. Return to your route immediately." "I found a survivor on that ship," Jake said. "She needs medical attention." It is an alien. You have no idea what you are dealing with. Report to CDF and continue your delivery." "She will die before they get here." "That is not your responsibility," Peter shouted. "You are violating company policy, endangering your crew, and risking an interstellar incident. Return to your route now, or you are fired." Jake looked at the alien woman lying on his medical table. Her breathing was getting weaker. "Then I am fired," he said, and ended the call. Lisa put her hand on his shoulder. "We are with you, Captain." Ben nodded all the way. Jake set course for Europa, pushing the engines as hard as they would go. Behind them, the alien ship floated in the darkness, keeping its secrets. Ahead of them was uncertainty, risk, and probably the end of Jake's career. The medical station on Europa was a cluster of white domes connected by clear tunnels. Through the tunnels, Jake could see Jupiter hanging in the black sky, massive and striped with storms. He had been here 3 times before, always for routine crew health checks, never for anything like this. Dr. Helen Grant met them at the docking bay. She was a tall woman with gray hair tied back in a practical bun. Her eyes went wide when she saw what Jake was carrying. "Is that what I think it is?" she asked. "Alien," Jake confirmed. "She is badly injured. I do not know her biology, but she needs help." Helen did not waste time asking questions. She led them to the medical wing and called in her entire staff. Jake, Lisa, and Ben waited outside while doctors and technicians hurried back and forth. The station's AI, a calm voice called MEDOS, coordinated the treatment, analyzing the alien woman's biology and guiding the medical team. Hours passed. Jake sat in the waiting area, his head in his hands. He had thrown away his career for this. Peter had already sent the official termination notice. The company was blacklisting him across the shipping industry. He would not work as a cargo hauler again. "You did the right thing," Lisa said, sitting beside him. "You know that, right?" "I hope so," Jake said. Ben paced back and forth near the window. "The CDF just docked. They are going to want to talk to us." Jake looked up and saw the military vessel settling into one of the station's landing bays. Great. That was all he needed. He stood up as 2 officers in dark blue uniforms walked toward them. The lead officer was a woman with short black hair and sharp eyes. "I am Commander Kate, Colonial Defense Force. You are Jake." "Yes, ma'am." "You found an unidentified alien vessel and removed a survivor without proper authorization. You violated first contact protocols and potentially endangered this entire station. Do you understand the severity of your actions?" Jake met her eyes. I understand, but she was dying. I could not leave her there. Kate studied him for a long moment, then she sighed. MEDOS tells me she is stable now. The doctors say you got her here just in time. Another hour and she would not have made it. Jake felt some of the tension leave his shoulders. She is going to survive. It looks that way, but we have a bigger problem now. Word is getting out. We have confirmed the existence of alien life, and we did it by rescuing someone from a damaged ship. Every government, every news organization, every conspiracy theorist is going to descend on this station, and we have no idea who she is or where she came from. As if in response, Helen stepped out of the medical wing. She is awake, and she is asking for Jake. Everyone turned to look at Jake. How does she know your name? Kate asked. I have no idea, Jake said honestly. Helen led him into the medical room. The alien woman was sitting up in the bed, looking much healthier than she had hours ago. Her golden eyes fixed on Jake as he entered, and she smiled. It was a strange smile, not quite human, but warm and genuine. Thank you, she said in perfect English. Jake stopped in his tracks. You speak English? I speak many languages, she said. Her voice was soft, musical. My people have been learning about yours for some time. My name is Arya. I am Jake. How are you feeling? Much better, thanks to you and these skilled doctors. She looked around the room at all the equipment, the monitoring devices, the medical staff watching from the doorway. You took a great risk to save me. You lost your employment because of it. How do you know that? Arya tilted her head slightly. I have been listening to the conversations around me. Your people are very open with information. I have learned much in the past few hours. Kate stepped into the room. I am Commander. I need to ask you some questions, starting with what happened to your ship. Arya's expression grew serious. It was sabotaged. By my own people, I am sad to say. There are some among them who do not want me to complete my mission here. What mission? Kate asked. Arya looked at Jake again, and something in her gaze made him feel like she was seeing right through him. I am an observer. My people have been watching humanity for 50 years, trying to decide if you are ready. Ready for what? Jake asked. To join the Galactic Assembly, to take your place among the civilized species of the galaxy. The room went silent. Jake felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. 50 years. They had been watching humanity for 50 years, and no one knew. You have been spying on us, Kate said, her voice hard. Observing, Arya corrected gently. We do this with all emerging species. You are not the first. The galaxy is old, Commander. There are many civilizations out there, some peaceful, some dangerous. Before we allow a new species to join the assembly, we must be certain they will not bring harm to others. We must know if they are ready for the responsibility. And what have you decided about us? Lisa asked from the doorway. Arya smiled again, but it was sad this time. That is why some of my people tried to kill me. They are divided on the question of humanity. Some see your potential. Others see only your violence, your wars, your capacity for destruction. I was sent to make a final assessment. What I reported would determine the vote. And someone did not want you to report, Jake said. Yes, they sabotaged my ship and left me to die in space, hoping it would look like humans were responsible. They wanted to guarantee that humanity would be rejected from the assembly. Kate crossed her arms, but Jake saved you instead. Arya looked at Jake with those golden eyes. Yes, he ruined their plan, and in doing so, he provided me with exactly the kind of evidence I needed. What do you mean? Jake asked. Arya stood up from the bed. She was taller than Jake, slender and graceful. The do not judge species by their best moments or their worst. We judge them by their choices. When Jake found me, he had every reason to leave me there. He would lose his job if he helped me. He risked his career, his future, perhaps even his life. His own people ordered him to abandon me. She took a step closer to Jake. But he chose to help anyway, not because it would benefit him, not because anyone was watching or would reward him. He helped because it was the right thing to do. That is what we have been looking for. That is what tells us a species is ready. One man's choice does not speak for all of humanity, Kate said. You are right, Arya agreed. But Jake is not the only one. For 50 years, we have observed thousands of moments like this. Humans choosing compassion over profit. Humans helping strangers at personal cost. Humans standing up for what is right even when it is hard. We have seen your darkness too, your wars and cruelty, but we have also seen your light, and that light keeps growing brighter. Jake felt overwhelmed. He had just been trying to help someone. He had not thought about representing all of humanity. "What happens now?" he asked. Before Arya could answer, alarms started blaring throughout the station. Kate grabbed her radio. "Here, what is going on?" "Commander, we have multiple ships approaching the station," the radio crackled. "Unknown configurations. They are requesting permission to dock." Arya's expression grew concerned. "The Assembly has heard about what happened. They are coming." "Who is coming?" Kate demanded. "Representatives from the other major species. The probably others. They will want to verify my report. They will want to see Jake and ask him questions." Arya looked worried now. "This is happening faster than I expected. I need to contact my people. We need the delegation here before the others try to influence the situation." "Influence it how?" Jake asked. "Not everyone in the galaxy wants humanity to join the Assembly, Jake. Some species see you as competition. Others see you as a threat. They will do everything they can to discredit my observations and keep humanity isolated." Kate was already moving. "I need to secure this station. You stay with Arya. Do not talk to anyone without me present." Over the next several hours, Europa Station transformed into something Jake had never seen. Alien ships docked one after another. Beings that looked nothing like humans walked through the corridors. They were tall and reptilian, with scales that shimmered green and gold. They resembled insects, with multiple arms and eyes that glowed faintly blue. And then they arrived. They came in a ship that made all the others look crude. It was beautiful, flowing like water frozen in metal form. The delegation was led by a woman who looked like an older version of Arya. She carried herself with authority, and everyone stepped aside as she walked through the station. "That is my mother," Arya told Jake quietly. "High Counselor Thera, she leads thee in the Assembly." Thera met with Kate and the station's administrator, a nervous man named Gregory Barnes. Then she came to the medical wing where Jake and Arya waited. "Mother," Arya said, bowing her head slightly. Thera looked her daughter over carefully, checking for injuries. Then her golden eyes turned to Jake. "So you are the human who saved my daughter." "I did what anyone would do," Jake said. "That is where you are wrong," Thera said. "Most would not. That is why you are important." She turned to Arya. "The Assembly is demanding a formal hearing. They want to question this human directly. They want to determine if his actions were genuine or calculated." "They were genuine," Arya said firmly. "You are too close to this," Thera said, though her voice was not unkind. "Your judgment may be compromised." The tribunal chamber was set up in Europa Station's largest conference room. They had removed all the furniture and replaced it with a curved platform where 3 representatives sat. Commander Vex of the sat on the left, his scales catching the light every time he moved. Ambassador of the sat on the right, perfectly still except for the gentle movement of his antenna. In the center sat Thera, representing the... Jake stood alone in front of them. Kate had wanted to be there with him, but the tribunal said he had to speak for himself. Lisa and Ben watched from the observation area, along with what seemed like half the station's population. News drones hovered near the ceiling, recording everything. Arya stood off to the side with the other delegates. She had tried to speak with Jake before the hearing started, but Thera had forbidden it. No coaching, no preparation. The tribunal wanted to see Jake as he truly was. "We begin," Thera said, her voice carrying through the room. "This tribunal has been called to assess humanity's readiness for inclusion in the Galactic Assembly. Jake has been selected to represent his species. Commander Vex, you may begin your questioning." Vex stood up. He was huge, at least 7 feet tall, and when he spoke, his voice rumbled like distant thunder. "Jake, how old is your species?" "I do not know exactly," Jake said. "Modern humans have been around for maybe 200,000 years." "And in those 200,000 years, how many wars has your species fought?" Jake hesitated. "I do not have an exact number." "Thousands," Vex said. "Tens of thousands. Your history is written in blood, human. You have killed more of your own kind than any disease or disaster. Even now, when you have spread to other worlds, you fight amongst yourselves. The Mars colonies and the Belt colonies argue over resources. Earth nations still maintain massive weapons. You are a violent species." "We have been violent," Jake admitted. "I will not deny that." "You have nearly destroyed your own world," Vex continued. "Pollution, climate change, nuclear weapons. You came within moments of making Earth uninhabitable, multiple times." That is true. Vex leaned forward. Then why should we allow such a dangerous species into the assembly? Why should we risk the peace of the galaxy by giving you access to our worlds, our technology, our civilizations? Jake took a deep breath. He had known this was coming. Because we learned. Every one of those near disasters taught us something. The nuclear weapons taught us about the cost of war. The climate crisis taught us about responsibility to future generations. We made terrible mistakes, but we learned from them. Did you? Vex asked. Or did you simply find new ways to make the same mistakes? You no longer threaten your world with nuclear fire. Instead, you argue over asteroid mining rights. You no longer pollute Earth's atmosphere. Instead, you pollute the space around your colonies with debris. Same pattern, different location. We are not perfect, Jake said, but we are better than we were, and we keep trying to be better. Pretty words, Vex said dismissively. But I have studied your species for decades. We have seen no evidence of fundamental change. You are what you have always been, aggressive, territorial, short-sighted. Then why did you sabotage Arya's ship? Jake asked. The room went silent. Vex's eyes narrowed. What did you say? Arya told me her ship was sabotaged by people who wanted her to die in human space. People who wanted to make it look like humans killed her. That sounds like something someone would do if they were afraid humanity might actually pass this test. I did no such thing, Vex said coldly. Maybe not you personally, but someone did. And they did it because they know humanity has changed. They know we are ready. That is why they had to cheat. Vex sat down heavily, his scales shifting colors with what might have been anger. Thera raised her hand for silence. We will investigate the sabotage separately. For now, we focus on the assessment. Ambassador, do you have questions? The ambassador rose. When he spoke, his voice was soft, almost musical. Jake, I have reviewed the observations of your species. I notice a pattern. Humans often act selflessly toward those they consider family or friends, but you are less kind to strangers, especially those different from you. How do you explain this? I think that is true of most species, Jake said carefully. Perhaps, but the assembly requires members to treat all species with equal respect. Can humanity do this? Can you truly see beings completely different from you as equals? Jake thought about how to answer. I will be honest. Humans struggle with this. We have a history of tribalism. We divide ourselves by race, by nation, by religion. We have done terrible things to people we saw as different. Then you agree you are not ready? No, Jake said. I think we are ready because we know it is a struggle. We know our instincts can be wrong, so we work against them. We created laws to protect minorities. We built international organizations to promote cooperation. We teach our children that all people have equal value. It is not easy for us, but we do it anyway. Because it is required, asked, or because you truly believe it? Both, I think. It started as requirement, rules we made to stop ourselves from doing harm. But over time, it became belief. Each generation believes it more than the last. My grandparents grew up in a world divided by nations that barely talked to each other. My parents grew up with Earth united and reaching for Mars. I grew up with humans on a dozen worlds working together. In another generation, my children will grow up knowing aliens are real, and they will treat that as normal. If you are accepted into the assembly, said slowly, humanity will encounter species very different from you. Species that think differently, look differently, have different values. Will you treat them with respect? Jake looked at Arya. I met an alien for the first time 3 days ago. She did not look human. She did not think like a human. But when I found her hurt and alone, I did not see an alien. I saw a person who needed help. I think most humans would do the same. Most pressed, or some. Enough, Jake said. Maybe not all. Humans are not a hive mind. We do not all think the same way. Some humans will fear aliens. Some will hate them, but enough will treat them with kindness that it will make a difference. Enough will choose to do the right thing. Sat down, seemingly satisfied. Thera stood now, and the room grew quiet. Even through the viewing screens, Jake could feel the weight of her attention. Jake, Thera said, you saved my daughter at great personal cost. Why? Because it was the right thing to do. But you lost your career, your reputation. You risked legal consequences, all for a being you had never met whose species you did not know existed. That is not rational behavior. Maybe not, Jake agreed. But humans do not always act rationally. Sometimes we act based on what we feel is right. And what told you it was right to save Arya? Jake struggled to put it into words. She was alive, she was hurt, she needed help, nothing else mattered. Not even the people on Titan who needed the medicine you were carrying. Jake felt his stomach twist. He had tried not to think about that. I contacted the shipping company. They sent another cargo ship. The medicine arrived only 6 hours late. No one died because of my choice. But you did not know that when you changed course, Thera said. You chose one life over potentially many lives. How do you justify that? I do not know if I can, Jake said honestly. I just knew I could not leave her there to die. If I had flown past and let her die alone in the dark, I do not think I could have lived with that, even if it was the logical choice, even if it saved more lives. So you chose emotion over logic. I chose both. My emotion told me to help. My logic told me the CDF would take 3 days. She would die in that time. The only logical choice that let her survive was to help her myself. Arya stepped forward suddenly. Mother, I request permission to speak. Thera looked at her daughter. This is not your hearing. I know, but I have something to say about humanity's readiness. Very well. Arya walked to the center of the room, standing near Jake. For 50 years, I and other observers have watched humanity. We have documented thousands of moments like Jake's choice. Humans helping strangers. Humans risking their lives for others. Humans choosing principle over profit. But we have also documented the darkness. The wars, the cruelty, the times when humans chose wrong. She turned to face the tribunal. What makes humanity ready is not that they always choose right. It is that they keep trying to choose right. They fail, they learn, they try again. They build systems to stop themselves from repeating mistakes. They teach their children to be better than they were. Every species does this, Vex said. This is not special. But humans do it faster, Arya said. That took 10,000 years to move from tribal warfare to planetary peace. That took 8,000. Humans have done it in less than 300 years. They are one of the youngest spacefaring species in the galaxy, yet they show more moral development than species twice their age. They are impulsive, Vex argued. Emotional, unpredictable. Yes, Arya agreed. And that is what makes them valuable. The assembly has become stagnant. We follow old rules, old patterns. We are slow to change. Humans change constantly. They question everything. They are not satisfied with the way things are. That perspective could benefit the entire galaxy. Thera raised her hand. This tribunal will now deliberate in private. Jake, you may return to the observation area. Jake walked back to where Lisa and Ben waited. They both grabbed him in a hug. You did great, Lisa whispered. I do not know about that, Jake said. He felt exhausted, drained. He watched Arya return to stand with the other delegates. She caught his eye and gave him a small smile. The tribunal deliberated for 2 hours. Then they returned. We have reached a decision, Thera announced. Or rather, we have reached an impasse. The vote, yes. Humanity has demonstrated sufficient moral development to warrant inclusion in the assembly. Jake felt a surge of hope. The vote, no, Thera continued. Humanity remains too volatile, too violent, too unpredictable to be trusted with the responsibilities of assembly membership. The hope died, a tie. What happened in a tie? Hold the deciding vote, Thera said. She looked directly at her daughter. However, I am conflicted. Arya's observations are thorough, but as Commander Vex pointed out, her judgment may be compromised by personal feelings. Therefore, I am abstaining from this vote. What does that mean? Jake asked quietly. It means, Thera said, that the final decision falls to my daughter. Arya, as the primary observer, you hold humanity's fate in your hands. But before you vote, you must know the full weight of your choice. Arya stepped forward, looking confused. I do not understand. If you vote yes based purely on your observations, the decision could still be challenged. However, there is one way to guarantee humanity's acceptance. You may invoke the right of bonding. The other in the room gasped. Arya's face went pale. What is the right of bonding? Jake asked. Thera looked at him, and for the first time he saw something like pity in her eyes. It is an ancient tradition. If Arya pledges her life to a member of humanity, if she bonds herself to your species, they will automatically vote for your inclusion. No species has ever been entry when it invokes this right. That sounds like a good thing, Jake said slowly. What is the catch? If humanity proves unworthy after being admitted, Thera said quietly, If your species commits atrocities or breaks the Assembly's core laws, Arya will be held responsible. She will face exile at minimum. At worst, execution. The tribunal called a recess while Arya considered her choice. Jake stood in the observation deck, staring out at Jupiter's massive form. The planet's red spots swirled like a wound in the atmosphere. He felt sick. "This is insane," Lisa said behind him. "They cannot ask someone to risk their life like this." "They can," Jake said quietly, "and she is thinking about doing it." "For you?" Lisa asked. "She barely knows you." "Not for me, for humanity. She believes in us." He turned away from the window. "I need to talk to her. I need to tell her she cannot do this." "They are not letting anyone near her," Ben said, walking up to join them. "Thera has her in a private room with the other. No humans allowed." Kate appeared around the corner, moving fast. "I need you to come with me, now." "What is wrong?" Ben found something big. They followed Kate to a small security office where Martinez, the station's security chief, was reviewing footage on multiple screens. Was a stocky man with tired eyes and a permanent frown. He looked up when they entered. "Show him what you found," Kate said. Pulled up several video files. "Ben came to me an hour ago asking to review the station's docking logs from the past week. He wanted to see which ships arrived before Arya's ship was damaged. I thought he was wasting my time, but then we found this." The screen showed a docking bay 3 days before Jake found Arya. A small ship was landing, sleek and silver. Design. "That is a courier ship," explained. "It docked for 6 hours, then left. Normally I would not think anything of it. We get ships occasionally, but watch who exits the ship." The video zoomed in on a figure stepping out of the airlock. It was a male, tall and silver-haired like Arya. But what caught Jake's attention was who met him at the docking bay. "Commander Vex." "The representative met with 3 days before the sabotage," Kate said. "That is suspicious on its own, but it gets better, or worse. Ben, tell him what else you found." Ben stepped forward, holding a data pad. "I checked the communication logs. That his name is sent encrypted messages to 3 different locations after meeting with Vex. One message went to a military vessel. One went to a private ship registered in the outer colonies, and one went to Arya's ship." "To Arya's ship?" Jake asked. "Yes, sent 12 hours before her ship was damaged. The message was heavily encrypted, but our AI was able to crack it." Ben pulled up the decoded message on his pad. "It says, 'Proceed as planned. The human routes are confirmed. Damage must appear accidental.'" Jake felt cold. Sabotaged Arya's ship. "Worse," Kate said, "is part of Thera's delegation. He is in that private room with Arya right now." They all looked at each other. Then Jake was running. He sprinted through the station corridors. Kate and the others closed behind. Security guards tried to stop him, but Kate shouted orders and they backed off. They reached the private conference room where they were meeting. Jake did not bother knocking. He slammed the door control and burst inside. Arya stood in the center of the room, surrounded by 5 others. Thera was speaking to her in their own language, soft and musical. They all turned to stare at Jake. "You cannot be here," Thera said sharply. "Which one of you is?" Jake demanded. One of the males stepped forward, his golden eyes narrowing. "I am. Why?" "Because you sabotaged Arya's ship. You met with Commander Vex 3 days before the attack. You sent encrypted messages coordinating the whole thing." The room erupted. Arya stared at in shock. Thera's expression went from surprised to furious in an instant, backed away, his hand moving toward something at his belt. "You have no proof," said. Kate walked in, holding her weapon ready. "We have communication logs, video footage, and encrypted messages. We have everything." Looked around at the other, seeing the accusation in their eyes. Then he ran. He was fast, faster than any human. But Martinez had been a military man before becoming security chief. He had anticipated the escape route and sealed the doors, slammed into the locked exit and spun around, pulling out a small device from his belt. "Stay back," warned. The device glowed with blue energy. "Put it down," Thera commanded. "You have disgraced yourself and our people. Do not make this worse." "I did what was necessary," said. His voice was shaking. "Humanity is dangerous. They are violent, unpredictable, expanding too fast. If we let them into the assembly, they will corrupt everything we have built." "So you tried to kill my daughter?" Thera asked, her voice cold. I tried to stop a mistake. Arya was always too soft on humans. She let her emotions cloud her judgment. I had to create a situation where humanity would be rejected permanently. By making it look like they killed her, Arya said quietly, you would have let me die to achieve your goal. One life to save the galaxy, said. It was worth it. And Vex helped you, Jake said. Why? Laughed bitterly. They want humanity excluded because you are expanding into territory they claim. Vex saw an opportunity. He helped me sabotage the ship and agreed to prosecute heavily at the tribunal. In exchange, they get access to 3-star systems they control. You sold out your own people, one of the others said, disgusted. I saved our people from making a terrible mistake. Thera moved fast, faster than Jake could follow. One moment she was across the room. The next she had his weapon and the traitor on his knees. Take him to the brig, she told the security guards. He will face justice. As they dragged away, Thera turned to Jake. I apologize. I did not know there was a conspiracy within my own delegation. Your discovery has prevented a grave injustice. What about Vex? Kate asked. He is part of this too. They will be informed of his actions. He will be removed from the tribunal and sent home in disgrace. The vote is invalidated due to his corruption. So what happens now? Jake asked. Thera looked tired, suddenly older. Now we must decide what to do about the right of bonding. Arya was considering invoking it, but I stopped her. I needed to think about whether it was the right choice. It is not, Jake said firmly. She should not have to risk her life for humanity. We should earn our place in the assembly on our own merit. Spoken like a human, Thera said with a slight smile. Noble but naive. The truth is, without the vote, you are deadlocked. The vote, yes, the vote is invalidated, but we still need a majority. Other species will be called to weigh in, species that know nothing about humanity except rumors and fear. It could take years to get a decision. And during that time, humanity remains isolated, cut off from galactic trade, technology, and cooperation. Then we wait, Jake said, however long it takes. Arya spoke up. Jake, you do not understand what you are turning down. The Assembly has technology that could cure diseases, solve energy problems, extend human. You are condemning your people to decades or centuries of unnecessary suffering because you do not want me to take a risk. I am not letting you sacrifice yourself for us. It is not your choice to make, Arya said sharply, then her voice softened. Jake, you saved my life. You gave me a chance to complete my mission. Let me do the same for you. By risking everything. By believing in you, in all of you. She stepped closer to him. I have watched humanity for 3 years. I have seen your best and your worst. I know you are not perfect, but I believe you will grow. I believe you will become one of the great civilizations of the galaxy. I want to be part of that. I want to help guide you through the challenges ahead. Jake shook his head. If we mess up, if we do something terrible, they will execute you. How can you risk that? Because I believe the risk is small. Because I have faith in humanity. Faith can be wrong. Yes, and that is what makes it faith. Thera interrupted. This is not a decision to be made lightly or quickly. I am calling another recess. Arya, think carefully about what you are considering. Jake, consider what you are refusing. We will reconvene in 4 hours. As everyone filed out of the room, Arya caught Jake's arm. Walk with me. They walked through the quiet corridors of Europa Station, not saying anything for a while. Through the clear tunnels, Jake could see the ice fields of the moon stretching out toward the horizon. Somewhere out there, deep under the ice, was an ocean. Life had evolved there, simple and strange, but life nonetheless. Europa was humanity's first proof that life existed beyond Earth. I am scared, Arya admitted. Invoking the right of bonding is not something done lightly. The last time I did it was 3,000 years ago for a species called the... They thrived in the assembly and never gave my ancestor reason to regret the choice. But that does not mean I am not afraid. Then do not do it, Jake said. Please, humanity can wait. We have waited this long. A few more years or decades will not matter. But they will matter, Arya insisted. Every year humanity remains isolated is a year of lost progress. A year where people die from diseases that could be cured. A year where conflicts arise that could be avoided with assembly mediation. Your species is at a critical point. Integration now with guidance could save millions of lives. Integration later, after you have developed weapons and resentments, could lead to disaster. You sound like you have already decided. Arya stopped walking and turned to face him. I think I decided the moment you chose to save me. I saw then what humanity could be, what you are becoming. I want to be part of that journey. Even if it costs you everything. Especially then, because the things worth doing are the things that cost us something. You taught me that. Jake felt something breaking inside him. I cannot let you do this. I cannot be responsible for what happens to you. You are not responsible. I am making this choice freely, just as you chose to save me freely. Neither of us knows how this will end, but we both believe it is the right thing to do. They stood there in the clear tunnel, Jupiter hanging above them, the ice fields of Europa below. Two people from different worlds, different species, connected by choices and consequences they could not fully understand. There is something else, Arya said softly, something I have not told you. What? The right of bonding is not just a political tool. It is personal. When a bonds with another being, it is for life. We choose one partner and stay with them until death. If I invoke this right with you, I am not just vouching for humanity. I am choosing you. Jake stared at her, choosing me for what? Arya smiled, sad and hopeful at the same time. The word does not translate perfectly to English. Partner is close, companion, bonded one. The human word that comes closest is probably spouse. You would be binding yourself to me for life. Yes, that is part of what makes the right so serious. I would be pledging not just my political support, but my life, my future, my commitment. To you and to humanity. Jake could not breathe. Arya, we barely know each other. Alarms meant another ship had arrived. Jake and Arya ran back toward the main docking area where Kate and were already coordinating the response. They showed a massive vessel descending toward the station, larger than any ship Jake had ever seen. What is that? Jake asked. Assembly flagship, Thera said, appearing beside them. The High Council has arrived, all of them. Why? Arya asked. Because this situation has become too important to leave to a simple tribunal. Conspiracy vexes corruption, your potential right of bonding. The entire council wants to oversee this personally. The flagship docked and representatives from a dozen different species flooded into Europa Station. Jake recognized some from his research over the past few days. The towering with their crystalline bodies, the aquatic in their mobility suits filled with water, species he had never imagined, gathering to decide humanity's fate. The High Council assembled in the main conference hall. 20 representatives sat in a curved formation, with Thera at the center. Jake stood before them, feeling smaller than he had ever felt in his life. Arya stood to his right, separated from him by protocol but close enough that he could see her hands trembling slightly. The lead counselor, a named, spoke first. His voice sounded like wind chimes. We have reviewed the evidence of conspiracy. Commander Vex and of the have been taken into custody. Their actions have invalidated the original tribunal. We must now conduct a new assessment of humanity. How long will that take? Jake asked. Years, possibly decades. We will send new observers, conduct new tests, gather new data. Decades? Lisa shouted from the observation area. People will die waiting for your decision. That is unfortunate, said without emotion. But the process must be thorough. We cannot risk admitting a dangerous species to the assembly. Then I invoke the right of bonding, Arya said clearly. The room went silent. Every being in the hall turned to stare at her. Arya, no, Thera said. We discussed this. You do not need to make this sacrifice. It is not a sacrifice, Mother. It is a choice. I choose to bond with Jake. I vouch for humanity. I pledge my life to their success and my future to their path. By the ancient laws of I demand humanity's immediate inclusion in the Galactic Assembly. Leaned forward. You understand the consequences. If humanity proves unworthy, you will face the harshest penalties. Death is possible. I understand. And you, Jake, said, turning his crystalline eyes toward Jake. Do you accept this bond? Do you accept the responsibility of being bonded to of representing your entire species through your actions? Jake opened his mouth to speak, but before he could, he realized what he had to say. No. Arya's head snapped toward him, shock in her golden eyes. The entire council erupted in surprised murmurs. No, repeated. No, Jake said firmly. I refuse. I will not let Arya sacrifice herself for humanity. If that means we wait decades for inclusion, then we wait. If it means humanity never joins the assembly, then we stay isolated. but I will not accept this bond. Jake, what are you doing? Arya whispered. The right thing, Jake said. He turned to face the council. Humanity should earn its place among you through our actions, not through someone else's sacrifice. If we cannot prove ourselves worthy on our own merit, then we do not deserve to be here. You are giving up advanced technology, said. Medical cures, energy solutions, extended. Your people will suffer without these things. Maybe, but we will also learn to develop them ourselves. We will grow at our own pace, and we will not build our future on someone else's risk. This is foolish, one of the other counselors said, a reptilian being with black scales. We offer you everything and you refuse. I refuse the cost, Jake said. Not the opportunity. If the assembly wants to include humanity, do it because we are ready, not because Arya is willing to gamble her life on us. Thera stood up and Jake saw something like pride in her eyes. Jake, you have just passed the real test. Jake blinked. What? The tribunal, the vote, the conspiracy, betrayal, even the right of bonding. All of it was designed to bring us to this moment, to see if you would sacrifice another being for your species' benefit, to see if humanity would choose principle over opportunity. Jake felt like the floor had dropped away. This was all a test. Not all of it, Thera said gently. His attempt to sabotage Arya's ship was real. His conspiracy with Vex was real. But once we discovered it, we chose to use the situation as a final assessment. We needed to know if humanity would exploit someone's love for personal gain. Love, Jake repeated, looking at Arya. Arya stepped forward, tears running down her blue cheeks. I am sorry, Jake. I knew this final test was coming. I knew they would offer the right of bonding, and I knew I had to offer it to you. But I did not know what you would do. I did not know if you would accept it to save your species. You knew this whole time. Only about the test structure, not about my feelings. Those were always real. When you saved me, when you chose to help despite the cost, I started to fall for you. Every conversation we had, every moment we spent together, I fell deeper. By the time I offered the bond, I meant it. I wanted it. But I had to see if you would choose my safety over humanity's future. Jake felt betrayed, angry, confused. You manipulated me. Yes, Arya said quietly. And I am sorry. But this was necessary. Humanity needed to prove it could reject exploitation even when offered everything. Spoke again. Jake, by refusing the right of bonding, by choosing to protect Arya despite the cost to your species, you have demonstrated the moral growth we require from assembly members. Humanity has passed the selection. The words took a moment to register. We passed. Yes, the final test was never about technology or violence or culture. It was about this choice. Would humanity sacrifice another being for personal gain? You chose not to. That is the mark of a civilized species. The council began to applaud, a strange sound coming from so many different species. Some clapped like humans, others made clicking sounds or chimed their crystalline bodies. Jake stood there numb, trying to process it all. We will begin integration procedures immediately, continued. Humanity is now a full member of the Galactic Assembly. Ambassadors will be assigned to Earth and your colonies. Technology sharing will begin within the month. Welcome to the galaxy, Jake. The council dismissed, and suddenly Jake was surrounded by people congratulating him. Lisa and Ben pushed through the crowd to hug him. Kate shook his hand with genuine respect. Species he had never met came forward to introduce themselves and welcome humanity. But Jake barely heard any of it. He was looking at Arya, who stood apart from the crowd, watching him with those golden eyes full of hope and fear. He pushed through the people and walked to her. They stood facing each other, with the noise of celebration around them fading to background. You used me, Jake said. Yes. You lied to me about the test. Yes. But your feelings were real. Arya nodded. Every word I said about choosing you was true. The bond offer was part of the test, but my desire for it was genuine. I want to be with you, Jake, not as an observer, not as an ambassador, as your partner. Jake wanted to stay angry, but looking at her, seeing the vulnerability in her expression, he found he could not. I do not know if I can trust you. I understand. I broke your trust by keeping the test secret. But I hope, in time, you can forgive me. I hope you can see that I had to make an impossible choice just like you did. What choice? Between my duty to the selection and my feelings for you. I chose both. I followed the test protocols while hoping desperately that you would pass. Because if you had accepted the bond for the wrong reasons, I would have had to report that humanity failed, even though it would have broken my heart. Jake ran his hand through his hair, thinking, "This is insane. We barely know each other. You are an alien, I'm a cargo hauler. This should not work." "But it could," Arya said softly, "if we both choose to try. You would stay here on Europa, near humanity. I have been assigned as permanent ambassador to Earth. I will be working with humans for years, helping with integration into the assembly. And I was hoping you would consider being my human liaison, working together to build this new relationship between our species. That would mean seeing you every day. Yes. Spending years working closely together. Yes. Probably falling more in love with you despite knowing you manipulated me." Arya smiled through her tears. "I hope so." Jake sighed, then he took her hand. "I am still angry with you." "I know. And I will probably be angry for a while. I understand. But I also understand why you did it, and I think maybe I can forgive you, eventually. That is all I ask." They stood there, hands joined, human, and while around them the galaxy celebrated. Thera approached them, smiling in a way that made her look almost human. "Jake, on behalf of the High Council, I want to thank you. You have given us hope that humanity will be a valuable addition to the Assembly." "I just did what felt right," Jake said. "Exactly, that is what makes you remarkable." Thera reached into her robes and pulled out a small crystalline device, similar to the one Arya had described, but more elaborate. "This is a token of choosing, a gift the give when we recognize someone as exceptional. Arya wanted to give you hers, but the test prevented it. So I am giving you mine, as thanks for saving my daughter and proving humanity's worth." She placed the crystal in his hand. It was warm and seemed to pulse with inner light. "What does it mean?" "It means the see you as one of us. It means you have a place in our culture, our society, our future. And it means that if you and Arya choose to bond for real when you are both ready, you will have my blessing." Thera walked away, leaving Jake and Arya alone again. Jake looked at the crystal, then at Arya. "Your mother just gave me permission to bond with you. She likes you. She did from the moment she met you. Mothers are very protective, but she saw the same thing in you that I did." "And what is that?" Arya stepped closer, so close he could see the tiny silver patterns in her blue skin. "Someone who chooses right even when it costs everything. Someone who protects others before themselves. Someone who sees people as people, regardless of what they look like or where they come from." She reached up and touched his face gently. "I know this is too fast. I know we need time to build real trust. But I want you to know that when I offered you the bond, even as part of the test, I meant every word. You were always the right choice." Then she leaned in close, her lips near his ear, and whispered so quietly that only he could hear. "You were always the right choice. Not for the selection, not for humanity, for me. From the moment you chose to save me despite the cost, you were always the one I would choose." Jake felt something shift inside him. All the anger, all the betrayal, all the confusion faded into something simpler, something clearer. He had saved Arya because it was right. She had tested him because it was necessary. They had both made impossible choices, and somehow through all of it they had found each other. "I am going to need time," he said. "I know. And we are going to have to figure out how this works. A human and that has never been done before. True, we will be making history. I am not a diplomat or an ambassador. I am just a guy who hauled cargo. And I am just a woman who observed your species. But together, maybe we can be more." Jake smiled despite himself. "You are impossible. And you are stubborn. We are going to fight a lot. Probably. And I am going to remind you about this manipulation for years. I am counting on it." Jake laughed and pulled her into a hug. She felt different than a human would, cooler to the touch, her body shaped slightly differently. But she felt right in his arms. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now we help humanity integrate into the galaxy. We work together to build bridges between species. We navigate the politics and the challenges and the thousand things that could go wrong. And between us," Arya pulled back to look at him. "Between us, we take it slow. We learn about each other. We build trust. And when we are both ready, really ready, maybe we make a choice, together. No more tests. No more tests, just two people trying to figure out if they can make something work across galaxies. Jake looked at the crystal in his hand, then at the woman in his arms. He thought about the journey that had brought him here. A simple distress beacon, a choice to help, a decision that changed everything. "I think we can make it work," he said. Arya smiled, and in that smile Jake saw his future. It would not be easy. It would be complicated and difficult and full of challenges, but it would be real. And that was all he needed. Later that night, after the celebrations had ended and the crowds had dispersed, Jake stood in the observation deck looking out at Jupiter. Arya found him there, 2 cups of something warm in her hands. "What is this?" he asked, taking one. "Tea. It is safe for humans, I checked." They stood side by side, drinking tea and watching the storms on Jupiter. After a while, Arya spoke. "What are you thinking about?" "About how my life changed in 3 days. About how I went from being a fired cargo hauler to the guy who brought humanity into the galactic community." "Do you regret it?" Jake thought about that. "No, I do not think I do. Even with all the manipulation and tests and complications, I made the right choices, and they led me here." "To Europa. To you." Arya leaned her head on his shoulder, an oddly human gesture. "I am glad you found my ship." "Me too." They stood there together, human and alien, 2 beings from different worlds who had chosen each other across the darkness of space. Outside the window, Jupiter's storms raged on, eternal and beautiful. And Jake, former cargo hauler, current liaison to the Galactic Assembly, future partner to a diplomat, smiled. Because sometimes the best rewards were not the ones you expected. Sometimes they were the ones you earned by simply choosing to do the right thing. And sometimes those rewards whispered in your ear that you were always the right choice. I know, by standards, this is insane. We observe potential partners for decades before making such a commitment. But I feel something when I am with you, something that tells me this is right. What if you are wrong? What if you regret it? Then I regret it, but I would rather risk that than never know what we could have been together. Before Jake could respond, alarms started blaring again. Jake felt like he had been punched in the stomach. He looked at Arya and saw her standing frozen, understanding the terrible choice before her. "No," Jake said. "No, she cannot do that. Do not put that on her. Do not make her risk her life for us." But Arya was already looking at him with those golden eyes, and in them, Jake saw something that terrified him. She was considering it. "My judgment is sound. Jake represents what humanity can be." Thera sighed. "Then he will have a chance to prove it. The tribunal arrives tomorrow. They will conduct a formal assessment of humanity's readiness to join the assembly." She looked at Jake again. "Are you prepared to speak for your entire species, Jake?" Jake thought about his small cargo ship, his simple life hauling supplies between colonies. He thought about how unqualified he was for something like this. Then he thought about the alien woman he had saved, the choice he had made, the principle he had followed. "No," he said honestly, "but I will do it anyway." But the alien woman was still breathing. And sometimes Jake thought that was all that mattered.